Alright, ladies and gentlemen, Weekend Modder here with the first new product being added to the store here in a little while. This is the xLume by Element 18592, aka Mod Shop. This is a RGB LED controller that will control individually addressable LEDs and power them, as well as provide an interface off of the Xbox 360 console so that you can control this via an app on the console itself. So what we've got here is a tiny little printed circuit board. This guy is literally the size of a postage stamp, so he's a little hard to get focused in the video. On this PCB, we have a few things to look at here. So we have a place for a power transistor. We have a couple of capacitors, C1 and C2. And then we have these jumpers for JP1 and 2. Now, according to Mod Shop, right now these jumpers are unused. So they're not going to be something that we worry about at the moment. They could potentially enable some firmware options in the future. And then these are the connections. There's one TX line that goes to the console for communication. There's two lines that go to the console for power. And then these three get sent over to the LEDs for sending the LED signal. On the back side of this little PCB is where we get the ESP8266 itself. So the ESP8266 will get installed on this guy, and the orientation of that goes something like this, right? And so that will get installed on there and soldered to all those little pads onto this guy, and this is what will be acting as the microcontroller to understand our commands and then send the RGB controls over to the LED strip. The LED strip is 17 individually addressable little RGB LEDs here. These guys are just long enough so that you can take and wrap them around an Xbox 360 Slim fan. So you get full 360 coverage there around that guy, which provides a really cool fan mod glow sort of thing going on. The transistor here is tiny also, right? And then the two capacitors are also included there, right? So this does require some pretty tiny soldering, and that's what we're going to tackle here. Also, to throw in as a just clarification, this does require a modded console. So it requires a console that's capable of running unsigned code, aka a JTAG, an RGH, and RGH 1.2. You could, in theory, even just run bad update and then be able to launch this thing. However, obviously, as you guys know, you have to run bad update every single time you want the ability to run unsigned code. So that could be troubling or whatever. So what we're going to do is get this thing installed. This does require some firmware flash to it. The firmware is provided on the GitHub if you're trying to do your own here. But if you're buying a kit from me, I will have already flashed the ESP8266 with the appropriate firmware for this to work. So this one has already been flashed, and yeah, so let's get to the little install here. So Okay. There we go. Now we can clean this up a little bit. Very nice. Okay, so now the next step is going to be to do the C1 and C2 Okay, let's go with that. Go. All right, let's redo our cleanup. All right, let's have a look there. Not bad. So very small scale soldering there. Alright. So I'm going to take this opportunity to pre-tin these pads just a little bit. Okay. So now we've got those guys pre-tinned. And the xLume is installed, or at least the components are installed on it. Alright, so now we actually have the slightly more tricky part here. There's the ESP8266, and it goes on like this guy. And this is where I'd be open to any sort of tricks that people might have, because what we're looking to do is line this sucker up just right. Let's see if adding a little bit of flux to this. Okay. Okay, let's see about cleaning these up. It's hot. Okay, let's have a look-see here. Looks alright. Let's see. This and maybe this. Definitely this one looks questionable. Yeah, I'm gonna say this one's okay, but I'm gonna redo this one. Yeah, that looks better. All right. So, In theory now, we have a ESP8266, ESP07S as it were. ESP07S, fully installed. This side. And this thing is ready to go. So, the next step is going to be console installation. And I'm going to use a little adhesive pad to place it in the console. So what we're going to do is reposition a few tools here. A slightly oversized adhesive pad. And we're going to bring our console over. So, per ModShop's install diagrams, the way that he laid it out was by placing the guy up here, and then he tapped 5-volt power off of those points right here, here and here, and then UART runs over to here on the J2C3 header. So I think that's what we're going to do, is just emulate the man himself. So I'm going to pull the console motherboard out of the housing here. Oh, and by the way, this is just an RGH3 Trinity. So standard RGH3 PLL QSB and that install. So for positioning here, I'm gonna go with right about there maybe, so I can route the wires underneath. Yeah, that seems like a good spot. So we'll pick this off and then we'll go right about there. And just for while we're doing this install, I'm going to tuck this out of the way over here for now, just to get it out of the way. Alright, so the 5-volt coming from here is, I see that little plus sign labeled here, and I think that's there. So I'm gonna gamble just a smidgen and go with just a smidge of flex paste. We're gonna prep this spot. Okay. Now the wire that I grabbed is just a little basic. So let's do our 5-volt to there. So we're going to go here. So that was ground. And let me just pretend the end just a smidge. Okay. Let's repeat. With the 5-volt side. All right. There we go. Keep that going. All right. So there's our power and ground. Transmit line for the UART connection. And that one, I'm going to route carefully over to the J2C3 header. And I'm going to pre-tin that guy. Let's see if we get, there we go. There we are. Let's get this wire clipped. There we are. Alright, so that's a signal wire that will communicate with the app, the xLume app. And so now I think our last component to handle is the actual LED strip itself and that installation. So these or you can get them off Amazon and stuff, but they have a adhesive backing to them, and then they have a ground, a DIN, and a 5-volt. Ground, DIN, and 5-volt, right? So we're going to be soldering to each of those. So I'm going to position that something like this at the back side, so that's over here. So then the lengths of wire that I need are from there to about there. So I'm going to just make up 3 lengths of wire this long. Okay, and we're going to go ahead and solder these up. So I'm going to get 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. All right. So let's pretend these guys, and then let's lay this down. Put something on it there. Let's get down in there. One. 2. 3. Okay. So now we've got our leads soldered up. Let's see if we can pre-tin these ends. Okay. Alright, so let's bring our console back. And let's think about peeling our adhesive backing all the way off. Oh, it's sticky. Alright. Oh. Okay, don't do that. That contains the sticker. Let's wrap this here, all the way up. Well, that's an issue. We probably want that to be under this. So let's peel that back up, take that there. Let's go here with that. Aha. So it's just the blue layer that separates. Yeah, that's very sticky. Yeah. That's what we want. So now we've got our adhesive all the way around. So I wouldn't recommend doing it that way. What I would do is leave the backing on the thing and go about it the other way. But I just have to line this up now with the adhesive there. Seems like it's going to work out though. All right. Now I think it'd probably be a good idea to put a little bit of some sort of extra secure, I think maybe a little vertical line of hot glue in there or something. Might not be a terrible idea, but I'm not gonna fight it too hard. So for these, right, we've got them labeled on the strip: ground, DIN, 5 volt. Ground is obviously going to go to the minus here. So yeah, let's do that. Ground to the minus. I'm going to do the DIN to the D0. And then 5 volt to the plus. All right. So in theory, that is our installation. I'm going to tuck these wires back into their little clip here, I think. Well, I'm not going to try too hard just right now. We're going to tuck these down and under there, just down so they're out of the way. We don't want to mess with the carriage or any of that stuff that's in there later. So let's give it a shot. We should, in theory, be able to fire this sucker up. Go to the dashboard, launch the xLume app, and be able to control them darn LEDs. So let's see if that is indeed possible. Okay, there's that. So we got power. Let's see. We got HDMI. And I've got a controller here. So let's see. First things first, boot the sucker up. It's booting, but the fan's not spinning. I think I got the fan in backwards. Let me unplug the power here real quick. Oh, I plugged the fan into the header for the SATA thing. That's surprising that it fit there. So that is an important lesson. Don't copy me there. Fan goes into the fan header. Alright, let's try that again and reconnect the power. And power. Hey, we got fan spin. We're going to get LEDs. We're booting. I can see one LED. It's glowing on my hand back here. So let's take a look. Hey, we've got to boot up. So, let's see. Maybe we should... Yeah, here we go. Alright, so let's take a look. If we go to... oh, I need this USB because that's what's got my copy of xLume on it. So we're going to go to Games. We're going to launch the XEX menu. We're going to then use XEX menu to launch xLume. Content xLume. xLume.xex. Alright, we've got... I remembered these settings from the last time that I did it, although I didn't have any LEDs in. So we're going to set red all the way up and green and blue to nothing. And then we're going to go to apply changes. Hey, look at that! Big old bright lights! Oh, I have this color wave thing checked. I guess I go to static color and then apply changes. Now I get my red. Changes applied. Very cool. Alright, so now I got gradient. Apply changes. That's cool. Alright. Color cycle. Let's see. Color cycle. Let's watch this one. What is color cycle? Okay, blue, purple. I think static twinkle. What is static twinkle? Oh, it's like the colors but kind of pulsing. Okay, I can say LEDs off. Boom, off. And I am doing all of this with this controller, right? So, color cycle, apply, boop. So no more keeping track of a remote, no more needing to have an infrared thing pointed at it. You can actually have the console behind glass or some other obscure thing and be able to modify this. I think I like the color wave the best. That one's pretty cool because it kind of does like a chasey sort of thing. Kind of looks like it's spinning, but it's changing colors at the same time. I like that a lot. So anyway, that is the xLume install. I think I'm going to have these available for purchase on weekendmodder.com/store here before too long, if not already live with this video whenever I edit my way through it. So yeah, thanks for your time and your attention.